Hey Art Nerds! Recently you guys saw me swatch the 140 dot Schmincke test sheet. While I was in Louisiana, I went to David's Art Supply, and you guys can check out my David Art Supply tour by clicking here. And I found that they had a Schmincke test set in stock. Now, of all the art supply stores I've personally hit up, from Japanese art supply stores in Japan to art supply stores in San Francisco to Dick Blick to Jerry's Artorama to Plaza, I have not seen Schmincke sold open stock in stores, and David's was not an exception. But I did pick up this test set because I am really eager to see if Schmincke lives up to the hype. So you guys are gonna have to keep watching to find out. So in my last Schmincke test video, I noticed that some of the colors don't reactivate very well, that many of the colors are fairly opaque, and that all of the colors are brilliant. And I'm not sure if that has to do with the opacity, optical brighteners, or the pigments used. I also noticed that almost all of the colors were fairly lifting. Today, we are not working from dried dots. We're going to be working from tubes, and then we're going to be drying these out and seeing if they reactivate well. So we're gonna be putting these Schmincke watercolors through their paces. You can normally find these for around $25, and I'll put a link in the description below. I paid $27.05. That is the price you pay when you buy local. And I get 6 tubes at 5 milliliters a tube. And Schmincke promises to test the best and that these are the finest artist watercolors. They come in a small wooden box that has a sticker on them and is also plastic wrapped. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a knife. Kids, if you're watching at home, make sure you have a parent help you with this part. Except then I noticed that there was already a tear in the plastic, so the knife was not needed at all. And this wooden box seems to be balsa wood. It has a little brass latch on the front and 2 little brass hinges on the back. And burned in, it says Test the Best and Schmincke. Now, I don't actually know the colors in this set yet, so I will find out when y'all find out. So let's go ahead and open it up. And inside are 6 tiny, adorable little tubes. And these are inside 2 little plastic trays, just to kind of keep them from wandering about. These have been taped shut. And I imagine you could turn this little wooden box into a handy, portable travel watercolor set. You could add in a miniature palette. You could add in a small brush, you could add in a small block of watercolor paper, and you're ready to paint. And the colors we receive inside are lemon yellow, alizarin crimson, helio cerulean, yellow ochre, olive green, and Payne's gray. So a slightly unusual color selection. For today's review, I am going to test these straight from the tube on some Fluid 100 cotton rag watercolor paper. I'm also going to fill some half pans and put them in a honey loquat container to make a mini palette. And I'm going to let those dry for a week, and then I'm going to re-swatch them, and we'll see if they handle any differently when you allow them to dry. So I think the first thing I want to do is I want to label and fill my half pans, and I'm just going to work from my wet watercolor through the half pans. I think that's going to be the easier way to handle these paints. All right, arty friends, so now it is time for the swatch portion of this video. I did notice that some of these filled kind of goopy, especially the Payne's Gray. I was really not impressed by that. So we'll see how they swatch. We'll see how they handle it. It seemed like a lot of gum arabic came out with the paint, not just like the gum arabic first, because then I could just wipe that away. So let's go ahead and get swatching. I'm going to be doing a gradiated wash swatch, and then I'm going to do a mass tone swatch. I'm going to do that in time lapse. So while these are drying, I noticed a couple of things. From the tube, some of these colors are quite goopy, especially the yellow ochre, the olive green, and Schmincke Payne's Gray. On Fluid 100 paper, the colors seem to be quite finely milled, especially the alizarin crimson and helios cerulean, this one here and that one there. I've noticed that colors that are this finely milled often come across as flat. And my Schmincke Payne's Gray is still drying, so I'll check in once these have all fully dried. This has mostly had a chance to dry. The Schmincke Payne's Gray, it looks reflective. I guess I can't really capture that for you guys, but see, it looks shiny, it looks still wet. It's perfectly dry. I think that's all of the gum arabic that kind of settled to the top when I was filling these half pans. You can see a lot of that on the yellow ochre as well. I think I'm going to do a lift test, and then I'm going to let these dry out for a few days and come back and re-swatch. While we wait for these half pans to dry out, I have a little bit of information about Schmincke for you. You can buy Schmincke Horadam Aquarelle through Blick in both half pans and tubes, through Wet Paint they're sold out of their half pan sets right now, but they still have tubes, through the Schmincke site, which has a larger variety of sets than any of the other sites I have listed, and through Jerry's Artorama. Schmincke was founded in 1881 by the color chemists Joseph Horadam and Hermann Schmincke, with collaboration from Professor Cesare Mussini. The Schmincke site is schmincke.de/en.html. You guys can find all of these links in the description below. They produce a variety of art mediums, from acrylics to oils to pastels to pigments, watercolor, and linoprint. Their motto is Meloria Cogito, I strive for the best. And Horadam Aquarelle is available in tubes and pans. The tubes are available in 5 milliliter, like what we have here, the test set, and also a 12 tube set, and in 15 milliliters. Tubes start at $13.41 on Blick and go up from there. So Schmincke Horadam is a fairly expensive watercolor. And the tubes are available in 139 colors. The pans are available in sets of full pans and half pans. Half pans are available in 48 colors. That's the largest color range available to half pans and pans. The sets start at $102.34 for 8 pans on Blick, although Wet Paint had them for around $74, and they're sold out right now, unfortunately. And again, you can find links to all of that in the description below. Hey Art Nerds, it's been about 5 days now, and I put these out where the AC could really get to them, and none of them are tacky to the touch. All of them have a slight bit of resist. With the Schmincke Payne's Gray, I could totally poke through it if I really want to. I don't really want to. So I think we can progress on to the second stage of our test, where we test dried from tube. So these are the swatches for my straight from tube. You guys saw me fill the pans and then work from that. So I am going to get myself a fresh page. We're still working on the fluid block. And what's neat about these is if you're careful, you can remove it without tearing. If you're not careful, it will tear. But you don't necessarily need a knife to remove your paper from the block. Maybe some of you don't need a knife to remove it from Arch's blocks, but I need a knife to remove it from Arch's blocks. So there you go. Very easy. I am going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'll just use a different waterproof marker, waterproof pigment brush pen. And we're going to do, I should have left room on here so we could compare, but I did not. Going to do a series of lines and then let those cure. All right, art nerds, next we have the lift test. I'm going to be using a Cotman synthetic watercolor brush, and I've got here a cup of clean water and a fresh paper towel. Both tests had an opportunity to dry for at least 24 hours, but I found that the straight from tube Schmincke watercolors were more prone to lifting than the dried in pan Schmincke watercolors. The exceptions still being the sap green, the olive green and the Schmincke Payne's gray were both still fairly prone to lifting. So I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, helping me unbox and swatch these Schmincke watercolors. Let me know in the comments below if there's a watercolor set I have not tested that you'd like to see reviewed. I'll try to get on it. As always, it was a pleasure to hang out with you guys. And if you guys are interested in watercolor, I highly recommend you head on over to my watercolor basics series here on YouTube or over at natosoup.blogspot.com. I walk you through step by step from buying brushes to selecting the right paper to what makes up your paints using pigments, binders, minerals, etc. I walk you through all of that in my very inclusive series, and it really focuses on comic artists and illustrators, which are two demographics I feel are vastly neglected when it comes to watercolor. So if that sounds like you, head on over there. And if you're a fan of watercolor, you can also read my beautiful watercolor comic, 7-inch Kara at 7inchkara.com or 7inchkara.tumblr.com. Videos like this would just not be possible without support from my wonderful art nerds over on Patreon. If you like what I do and you want to help me continue, you can head on over to patreon.com/natosoup to join the Art Nerd community. Art Nerds get early access to videos, they get access to comics, and they get sneak peeks for all kinds of things, including access to my making comics and zine class, which is taught through Nashville Community Ed. They get videos for that, they get the resource sheets, and they get the presentations before anybody else. So if that sounds good to you, you should go become an art nerd at patreon.com/natosoup. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys again really soon. Bye guys.